Welcome back. Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff of Georgia has been a vocal critic of President Trump's policies, and now he's broadening his attacks. During a rally yesterday in Atlanta, Ossoff appeared to criticize President Trump's relationship with one of his aides, Natalie Harp. Ossoff's campaign then blasted it out.
While the sailors on the Lincoln fight his war, while he fruitlessly drains our munitions and oil reserves, the president sleeps through his meetings. He golfs and trades stocks. See, he doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
Harp, the president's executive assistant, was one of just 3 aides who reportedly joined him during his covert plane swap as he left Turkey last month. For more on this, I'm joined by today's panel. Dan Merica, author of the Washington Post Early Brief newsletter. Ashley Etienne, who served as communications director for Vice President Harris and is now a Meet the Press contributor. And Rob Bluey, president and executive editor of the Daily Signal. So, Dan, White House Comms Director Stephen Chung fired off a tweet about this. I'm not going to read it, but we'll show it to people out here that seemed to indicate that Senator Ossoff had hit a nerve here. What do you think about this change in the senator's style of attack here in a race that he seems to be pretty comfortably ahead in?
I think it says more about 2028 than it probably does about 2026. And it seems like Jon Ossoff is rightfully getting a lot of presidential attention. And I think it's because of videos like that. He's clearly testing out lines beyond maybe the confines of a Senate race. You saw how highly produced that video is as well. It's not just like a camera. This is like cuts and beautiful images and a big background. I mean, this is a fully produced campaign. I also think you're going to see a lot of Democrats over the next few months testing out how to get at Trump, because the most potent thing in a Democratic primary is the antagonism and is the anger of Trump, because base Democratic voters are so fired up by how much they don't like the president, that if the president doesn't like you, it can sometimes be a validator, almost the anti-endorsement in a way. On the topic and on the content, I mean, I think it's difficult to kind of get into without getting into reporting, but I do think it's very clear that Ossoff is one of the leaders of the pack in 2028 and is testing out these lines because of that.
I think it's interesting, though, Ashley, you and I are old enough to remember, when they go low, we go high.
No, block that out.
Block that out. I'm not saying it's a great strategy, but it was a strategy. I mean, what do you make of this, turn here from Ossoff, who I think has been a very effective communicator for Democrats up till this point?
I mean, I think what he's doing is actually channeling the frustration and the angst of voters on the ground in Georgia. I mean, if you look at the folks who are going to make the difference in this particular race, is not necessarily the Democratic base, it's those independent voters. 63% of independent voters disapprove of his handling of Iran. 44% of those same independent voters are saying the most important issue right now is high inflation and high costs, which the president's doing nothing about either one of those. So I think he's, I do accept to some degree he might be testing out 2028 lines, but I think more than anything else, he's channeling the angst and the frustration on the ground, which is why he's so comfortable in doing it. I mean, he's actually gone further than I think anyone has gone, but because primarily he's looking at the numbers, and the numbers say that people are, especially Georgians, are overwhelmingly frustrated with this president. He's underwater across every issue in the state of Georgia.
And Rob, some Republicans are calling this an unforced error. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
Well, obviously, the remark that he made has sparked quite a bit of chatter on social media today, particularly among conservatives and Republicans, because they do feel it is a low blow. I think it is. I think Jon Ossoff is somebody who not only, as Dan said, is testing out the 2028 waters, but he's also somebody who's trying to balance between appeasing the far left with attacks on Trump while also serving as a senator from a swing state of Georgia. And so that is a difficult balancing act for him to make. And ultimately, I think you're right. He's well ahead in the polls, it seems, against Mike Collins right now. We still have 3 months or so to go. Will Mike Collins be able to mount any sort of a comeback? As Ossoff focuses more on national issues, that's a big question to be seen.
I guess I don't understand what was objectionable about what Ossoff said. I mean, the reality is the one thing I think he left out is the president doesn't want to do the job. He just wants to make money off the job.
Right,
I mean, a congressional report just came out that showed that the American people have lost $219 billion because of his tariff policies and high costs. He himself has made over $2 billion off the job. His wife has made $10 million plus off the job.
He didn't say that for a reason, and it's the innuendo and bringing up his personal aid.
Yeah.
I would love to know what Natalie Harp, let alone just Natalie's name ID is in Georgia. That is for an audience that plays to a very online base, that knows who Natalie Harp is, that knows the innuendo in that. And that's why I think it's easy to say this isn't necessarily for a Senate audience as much as it is for a more lefty Twitter 2028 audience.
Hang on just a second. No, to Rob's point, though, it also brings out a defense of Trump, which I think also Democrats jump on, because Trump's going to be the last person, and his supporters are the last people to say, like, how dare you bring in these other people and make these implied character attacks? Sure. He is the master of the implied character attacks.
Exactly.
So the defense there, I think, is a lot more challenging for Republicans. I want to ask about one of the, the next door neighbor state, actually, to Georgia. This Senate race in South Carolina is getting more interesting. You've got Ralph Norman out there basically trying to accuse Darlene Graham of being a swamp creature, even though she's only been visiting the swamp for the last few weeks now. I want to play a little bit about what he said over the weekend, and we'll move along to South Carolina.